All right, so this will be pretty brief. This is just introducing the skeleton. So we are going to obviously learn about the skeletal system. We are going to break it down into two parts anatomy test. So you're going to have a test on the axial skeleton, and you're going to have a test on the appendicular skeleton. All right, so I think we can see the difference here. The axial skeleton here is in red. The appendicular skeleton here is in red. So normally if I were here, I would say, talk at your table. What's the difference in function of the axial skeleton? So think about that for a second. What's the difference in the functions of the axial versus the appendicular skeleton? Give you a second. All right, I hope that you can see here that the axial skeleton is mainly for protective purposes. There's not a whole lot of movement that goes on. Yes, we can bend our vertebrae, we can move our jaw, the ribs expand a little bit, but there's not a whole lot of movement that goes on. A lot of this is protection, right? Protects the brain, protects the heart and lungs, protects the spinal cord, right? So a lot of the axial skeleton, and this is why they differentiate them, this is protection, all right, mainly here. Whereas the appendicular skeleton, it's named because it's our appendages, it's our arms and our legs. It's a lot of movement, right? We walk, we run, we swim, we do all the things, wrestle, karate, whatever it is, we do with our appendicular skeleton. So there's movement there, there's joints that cause movement there. Those are our appendages. So we're going to break it down into two tests, one for the axial, one for the appendicular. And we'll talk about which one has more bones as we go through it. But in total, we have 206 bones total in the body, all right? And then we'll talk about where there might be more bones, all right? Whether it's in the appendicular or the axial skeleton, all right? So we'll talk about that as we go through it. But that's the two general general groups of bones, axial and appendicular, and they're named for their function as well as where they are. This is in our axis, all right, the middle of our body. These are on the appendages. All right, and then the second part here are types of bones. So you are going to, I'm going to go over this, and then I have some groups out, and you are going to go see each of these types of bones, and I want you to try to identify what are the bones that you're seeing in the little bin that are at each station, okay? So there is one type of bone that are basically long and thin. Those are long bones. So group A is a long bone, okay? There are bones that are short and sort of squat. They look like rocks. So this is long. All long bones are longer, all right, than they are wide, all right, all of them. Even if it's a tiny little one, the little tip of my little pinky finger is still a thin little bone, all right? I'm going to go back here to this. Here, look at this. It's still long and thin, right? Even though it's a tiny little bone, it's not a short bone. It's still a long bone because its shape. It's longer than it is wide. All right, but short bones look like rocks. They're just short and fat, right? Those are short bones. Typical there, that is wrists and ankles. All right, so like wrists and ankles are short bones, whereas long bones are like your arms and legs, fingers, all right, all of that. These are short over here also. All right, see how they're just like little rocks, I call them. Then we have flat bones. Flat bones are just like they say, they're flat. All right, so these here are flat bones. All right, this is your scapula. All right, it's your shoulder blade back here. It's sort of flat there. Your skull here, a lot of them are considered flat bones, but they're considered a type of flat bone called sutural. You'll see that in the other video if you watch that. This is also a flat bone, all right? Your skull bones, or a lot of them at least, are flat, like here on the top of the cranium, they are. All right, and then we have a category that basically doesn't fit into any other categories, and we call these irregular bones. So irregular bones are those that just don't fit. They're not flat, they're not long, they're not short, so we put them in their own category. So this is vertebrae. We're going to look at these a lot later on. And this is your hips or your pelvis. They're also considered irregular bones. All right, so they're just called that because they don't fit in any other category. All right, so far we have the major categories, the major two major divisions of the skeleton and types of bones. So you're going to do an activity where you go to the bins and you find each of the types of bones, and you're going to try to figure out, again, where they come from and which type of bone they are. Okay, so we're going to do that. You're going to rotate through stations and do that. And then you're going to work on building a skeleton to see how many bones you already know. Okay, so those are the two activities you're going to work on today.